In this video, I'll be showing you a tour of my Tusca Outdoors HitchHiker. The HitchHiker you see here is 79 inches long. We mounted it with these metal plates. There's one on the inside, one on the outside. There will be a mounting video on Tusca Outdoors YouTube channel and on their website that shows how you can mount this. But essentially you're drilling through the foam and the polyurea, running bolts through and clamping it together. And that is what we are attaching the turnbuckles to. Now for my truck, because it's sitting above the wheel wells, you don't have space to run the turnbuckles down in, so we use these bullring bedside D-rings that kind of clip up here. These are rated for 1,000 pounds working weight, and this whole thing only weighs 180 pounds. So over-engineered fairly purposely so people could run them in all sort of conditions. Again, 79 inches on the outside, you lose 2 inches on each end. So it can sleep someone that's up to 6'3". I'm 5'11", so it works well. But if you were taller, you know, over 6'5", you'd have to lay diagonally in here. As we walk around, you'll notice this contraption sticking out. This is my EcoFlow Wave 2 air conditioner. So it has an intake hose and an exhaust hose. And so I haven't quite yet cut a piece of plywood or a better piece of foam. So I just use the one they provided and stick it on the outside, and it don't leak too bad. If we come around the back here, you'll see the way I have it above the wheel wells is with this decked drawer system. And it's super cool because I can still keep my tools and everything in the bed. Obviously, for a lot of folks, like running this setup, if you have a larger truck and you want to be able to use a gooseneck or a fifth wheel, is not super practical. But for me and for what I do, towing bumper pull commercially, this works really well. I can carry all my hitch accessories and I don't have to store my tools in my sleeping area. So that's super cool. And there's 4 turnbuckles on each side. So, you know, you have the 2 in the front are at like a 45-degree angle, and the 2 in the back are kind of pulling back. I don't know what angle that is. It's like almost vertically down. So we found when we were testing that when you're driving at highway speeds, because of the rise and the height of this, the wind would actually push the HitchHiker back against the tailgate if the front buckles weren't angled at least a 45. And so now when you put it in, you know, I've driven this thing through 40-mile-an-hour winds and it does not move. That's super cool. And yeah, it's really comfy. I love sleeping in this thing. One of the biggest things is because you actually have walls and that are insulated and covered with the polyurea, is you get something that's really strong but also very noise dampening. And so sleeping overnight at truck stops, if you have the windows closed and the AC on, is really comfortable because you don't get as much of the truck traffic noise that you would if you were just in like a normal fiberglass cap. All right, so this is the inside of the HitchHiker. And as you can see, I have my bed in here. If you look, I have a little bit of space on the end. I can realistically stretch my toes out and still be like, have like a ½ inch of distance from the door. I did have my bed on this side. I used to have it on that side, but this is the EcoFlow. I run the EcoFlow on this side because there's a port you can see on the outside here that I run my cord through, so it flips up and then I can run a full extension cord, and I also run the drain for the air conditioner out of there. And so it works really well. I'll put the generator on the ground at a rest stop if I'm running it, or run the power cord out if I'm like parked at a friend's house. And there are 2 vents in here, but they really don't do anything. They're more just like attic vents that, you know, because they wanted to kind of keep this as watertight as possible. And so they just vent, you know, any like excess hot air and like keep the pressure from getting too high in here. And then you can kind of see, if you look over here, that these are what the plates look like on the inside. So they are color matched, but you do have the bolts here that are lock nuts. And there's 3, 6, 9, 12 of them on the inside. And that's what is holding this onto the truck. Outside of that, I have 2 RV sliding windows, so you can open the screens and get a nice cross breeze. So when it's cool out, like I foresee in the fall, especially when I'm driving, like the windows are going to be huge because you can just crack them and you really get a nice enough breeze that you don't need anything to blow air or anything. I mean, having a fan is nice always, but all the hitchhikers come with carpeting so that they ship with that. Obviously the air conditioner does take up quite a bit of space, so like if you had the 7-foot version, it almost seems like you'd want to get like you couldn't fit like a full size mattress in here. You'd have to get like 2 of these cot size ones and then kind of squish over to one side, or I mean maybe you could like build a shelf to put this on. But again, I was trying to keep this set up as modular as I could so I could take it out and just put it on the ground and not have to worry about too much extra stuff or like the weight in here. I'd like to at some point add plywood on the walls so I can screw into them and have something that'll hold like shelving and stuff. But if you do that, you add more weight, so it's kind of a balance. I keep my duffel up here with like my toiletry bag and everything, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can see like I'm sitting, again, I'm 5'11", and you can see kind of I have almost a foot of space. You can, if you like wanted to change and had window covers, you can essentially stand up if you're like fully bent over to like walk like this, but most of the time I just end up kind of crawling out. The sleeping bag I have is nice. It fits over the top of this mat so it doesn't slide off. So I just didn't want to mess with bedding in this thing. The sleeping bag's like a 50-degree bag, so it's super lightweight. It's good for the summertime, and the mattress is like 3-inch memory foam. So yeah, it goes pretty good. Give me enough space to stretch out after a long day of driving. So for the R&D for this hitchhiker, we started testing back in the spring, and the original design had the turnbuckles oriented more vertically, and so we were dealing with a lot of like movement and shifting, and so we went through 3 iterations of turnbuckle adjustments before we landed on the angles for these. And then I probably put on the prototype about 12,000 miles, maybe, might even be closer to 15. Yeah, we had a lot of time in it. I think at this point I probably have over 30 nights in the hitchhiker, sleeping in it in various configurations. One of the things that I've like only just figured out is the best way to cool the hitchhiker, and I actually bought a generator. It's like a 2500 watt, and then I bought the Wave 2 from EcoFlow, which is a heater and an air conditioner. I was kind of put off because the EcoFlow is really expensive and there were some questionable reviews, but after running it now for a bit, it does a really good job cooling this because it's a small area that's well insulated. It still has to work pretty hard when the hitchhiker is in direct sun, but I think for most of the people that are buying the hitchhiker, you really are just looking for something to keep you cool at night. Like if you wanted to hang out in a camper all day, you would buy a camper like an Airstream or a normal fifth wheel or something like that. This, because it's bare bones, you just need it for the nights, you know, those 4 months out of the year where it's hot. If it's hot for you year round, then you're definitely gonna wanna get one of those. But yeah, so I run the Wave 2 with the battery that's coming and then the generator, and it works well because the battery only lasts like 6 hours when it's super hot out. I didn't really want to put in solar or a roof fan. Tusca does have customers that have really built these out, but because I was trying to keep my weight down, and I don't know, I didn't want to have to deal with the solar panels on the unit because I like taking this out of my bed if I'm going to be daily driving the truck for a little bit and not working. It was kind of figuring out like what I wanted to have as a build inside. Other than that, for the R&D, it was just figuring out the length. So what I have, as I mentioned before, is a 79-inch long model on the outside. Now, the normal Tusca hitchhiker is closer to 82, so it's like 7 feet. And so it's a lot longer than this, and that version, if you have the truck, actually overhangs your tailgate, and you either have to take your tailgate off or have a platform that comes out. And obviously the deck system doesn't come out past my tailgate, and I couldn't have something hanging out because I tow, and not having my tailgate, I'd lose the camera, and I also, you know, because I have to comply with DOT stuff, then the camper like wouldn't be inside the bed rails. So we needed something that would work with that, and the guys at Tusca kind of accommodated my needs just so they could get this tested and made the shorter version. Now, again, 79 inches, it'll only fit inside a bed that's at least 6 feet 9 inches long. If you're a 6'5" bed, or a 6.6 bed, you're gonna have to figure out, either taking your tailgate off, running it, with the overhang, with your tailgate down, something like that. If you're interested in getting a hitchhiker for yourself, please visit Tusca Outdoors website. I will put a link below in the description. You can get the HitchHiker, the full trailer version that's 7 feet, or one of their truck bed versions. There are 3 different ones. So check them out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Power Stroke Maintenance. Cheers.